Welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awijan. Purple Mafia is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps. I thank each and every one of you once and always for downloading and listening to this show. It is a great pleasure to be back on board with you once again today. Minnesota Vikings kicked off against the Green Bay Packers, and, well, it was definitely a game that we came into a little afraid. Like, could it be one of those nightmarish type of days way back in 2000? Everything looked so positive for the Vikings. Here came Amon Green, Brett Favre, and the Green Bay Packers, and just bleeped everything up. And of course, that led to not getting home field advantage in the NFC title game later on. And, well, it was 41-0 New York. So we don't want any of that type of nonsense in the future. So could it be a magical season that leads to the ultimate prize that we've never had in over 60 years? Well, the Vikings are getting closer and closer and closer to that possibility. Vikings went from nothing to all of a sudden building a big lead, watched it evaporate, but then at the end of the day, still finished the job, got the key first down they needed, ran the clock out, and are now winners of 14 games, 14-2 on this season. The final score of the game, by the way, was 27-25. So you might have wanted to hear the final score. 27-25, though, of course, if you watched the game, you saw it and all of that. So the best Minnesota Vikings regular season finishes, 1998, 15-1. I was very much there. Unfortunately, the Vikings would not protect home field versus the Atlanta Falcons. And there were a lot of nightmarish little tiny scenarios that took place during the course of that game that led to a game that the Vikings looked like they were going to win comfortably, and they wound up not winning comfortably. They wound up losing in overtime in the most heartbreaking fashion you could ever imagine against a 14-2 Falcons team. Well, the Minnesota Vikings right now are 14-2. So if this was a 16-game season like it was in the past, this would be only the second time in franchise history the Vikings won 14 regular season games. Vikings did go 13-3 back in 2017, but that did not feel the same as this one. Case Keenum and Sam Darnold, definitely you can't compare the two. Sam Darnold is light years ahead of Case Keenum, has a much better arm. You saw him thread the needle a few times today, and what was an epic performance. 1976, the Vikings were 11-2-1, but back in the day when the Vikings went to the Super Bowl, there were only 14 games during those regular seasons. 12-2 in all three of those years. Oh, well, yeah, I guess there was 11-2-1 in 76. But the Vikings were 12-2 multiple times during those days. The 1969 Vikings, 12-2. And then, of course, got hammered by the Chiefs, despite the fact they were favored by 18 before that Super Bowl number 4, way back in the day. And that was the beginning of all of our heartbreak here in this town. Like, other than, say, the Gophers losing Rose Bowls, but of course they'd won Rose Bowls as well, back when the Rose Bowl possibly meant a national championship, which it did. And that was awesome. The Vikings, unfortunately, did lose the Super Bowl to the Chiefs. And again, like I'll continue to say, if this Minnesota Vikings team gets to the Super Bowl and the Chiefs are waiting there, it'd be a fitting way to possibly end the drought is against the team that started it. That started all the heartbreak and everything. Like the, oh no, what's going to happen this time? Oh gosh, here we go again. Heartbreak again. Like 76. By 76, a lot of Viking fans and Viking players on that team, Vikings players on that team were just kind of like, here we go again. When there was the fumble at the goal line and everything just kind of derailed after that. And the Vikings have not been back since. John Madden was alive, young, and coaching an Oakland Raiders team that was just starting to win Super Bowls. In fact, that was the very first of 3. So, where are we now? 1970, the Vikings 12-2 did not get to the Super Bowl. 73, the Vikings did get to the Super Bowl, and just couldn't make the big stops against the Miami running game and that great Miami defense and all that. That was heartbreaking. You have the 73 Dolphins, a back-to-back Super Bowl championship for them, and they haven't been back to the Super Bowl, but they do have 2 rings to count for it, they have 2 rings at the end of the day. The 1974 Vikings were only 10-4, but again, back to the Super Bowl after losing, so nice to be able to get back to the Super Bowl, but this time ran into the from an old dynasty to the new one. The Pittsburgh Steelers were just kind of becoming a great football team, and they stymied the Vikings 16-6, heartbreaking fashion. 10-4, the Vikings were that year. So that's like the equivalent of maybe what you'd think of as a 12-4, 11-5 team. The 12-2 teams, I always think of them as a 14-2 club. 75, that was the Drew Pearson year, heartbreaking. Everybody saw the Vikings going all the way that year and winning it, but then there was the Drew Pearson push-off in the divisional round. Heartbreaking, disappointing. The Cowboys would win the Super Bowl over the Broncos, if I remember correctly. Bullcrap how that all took place. I might be getting it mixed up with a different year, but I think that's what happened, if I remember correctly. Otherwise, they lost to the Steelers. So one of those, the Cowboys lost to the Steelers. Another one, the Cowboys beat a Broncos team that just wasn't that great. 87 Vikings could have done the same thing, but they just didn't. There was a drop ball at the. It was kind of a low throw. It was a little bit off. In fact, it was off a bit, and Darren Nelson unable to bring it in, and the Vikings were unable to force overtime in the nation's capital way back in '87, trying to carry the momentum from the world champion 87 Minnesota Twins, 87 world champion Minnesota Twins. So, of course, 98, Vikings were 15-1. 2024, the Vikings are 14-2. And one more game next week against the Detroit Lions, where it's all the marbles. So there's your history lesson. Sorry I went into that. This football game was extremely dramatic, almost as nauseating as last week. But thankfully this week I wasn't nearly as sick. In fact, I wasn't sick at all. Unfortunately, my wife is a little bit, but she's getting better, I do believe. There might be a case of pneumonia there a little bit. A very frustrating first quarter where every time you thought the Vikings might have had something going, they didn't. It'd be like either a 3-and-out or a couple first downs, and then it would get stalled. And then you had your kicker miss from, 58 yards out. It just wasn't enough. It hit the bottom of the upright. Extremely frustrating. You also saw Mr. Will Reichart doink a 43-yarder, which has a lot of fans concerned. The 55-yarder, that was going to happen. The first attempt was, first of all, Reichart was going to kick the ball. And then there's the stupid Bush League timeout. I hate that crap. But yes, the timeout, I'm tired of that. I don't like when we do it. I don't like when anyone else does it. You know what I say? Just let them kick the ball and move on. It's annoying. It's stupid. But, there was the stupid timeout. And then the kick was up and it was way the heck off. And then there was we could call it a questionable offsides call against the Green Bay Packers. That the guy was barely really lined up any differently than anyone else. Vikings would then get a 50-yarder, and as the guy kicked it, Reichart, it was a perfect kick, and there was another damn timeout already called, which was freaking annoying. So then Will Reichart got to kick it a third time, and he made it. So, okay, good. So, Reichart also had a 25-yarder to get the Vikings up 10-3 at that point. But kind of a weird, wacky day for Will Reichart, the Minnesota Vikings kicker. And quite frankly, I don't think Ryan Wright had his best game either. What did he have? Like a pretty short punt that put the Vikings in not the best position. This thing has fallen and hit the floor about 50 times. Piece of junk, yeah. It's already broken. Give up. Just get it out of here. I've kept trying to fix it. Washington Commanders are flashing in the background. Well, not really. Minnesota, yeah, they are on a distant TV. Minnesota Wild are flashing in the background against the Ottawa Senators in the first period. True Erickson Ek is back, so that's great news for the Minnesota Wild. Timberwolves game was delayed a little bit, something with their court, so that's good for me that now these games won't all be parallel on top of each other. I can watch the Wolves afterward. After they've made a couple of dramatic, awesome comebacks against they prevented a comeback, kind of like the stupid Vikings and Packers today, against the Mavericks on Christmas, and then they did make a comeback against the Houston Rockets a couple nights ago. Was that Friday night? That was a blast. Awesome comeback. 16 points with 4 minutes left. That was awesome. Freaking awesome. Otherwise, McManus doesn't miss anything. He doesn't miss field goals. He doesn't miss extra points. He's awesome, and sucks to be us, I guess, when it came to that. But sucks more to be the Packers because Sam Darnold was ridiculously awesome, except for one weird play where he just kind of tried to force one to a guy who had been pretty good the past few weeks, for the most part, other than one annoying drop. I think it was 2 weeks ago? I think it was 2 games ago. Annoying ass drop. But other than that, Hawkinson has been fairly clutch. Made some big catches today. Obviously, the one of the targets, that was the interception. The target that was not completed to Hawkinson. He made some big plays in this game, including a 28-yarder, 5 catches for 68 yards for him. Justin Jefferson was a spectacular decoy, which got the Vikings rolling early. when the Vikings offense was sputtering. That was when there was finally some hope. Next thing you know, Jalen Naylor was bringing in one from 31 yards out. It was just like, that was freaking awesome. Naylor had a couple of huge clutch catches, five overall for 81 yards, and of course that touchdown that opened up the Vikings side of scoring after the Packers made it 3-0, and you had us all frustrated and confused for an extended period of time. Then Reichart would score after the Vikings offense stalled late. 4th and 7. I know. This game was filled with stupid, frustrating penalties, including a big hold on Mr. Cam Robinson that derailed a possible spectacular catch. It would have been one of those Chris Carter, but beyond that, catch of the year type of plays. Now, Carter has the best hands of anybody we've all ever seen. That's why you compare Chris Carter, whereas Jefferson's a more spectacular kind of player, but Carter had the best hands probably of anybody ever. So all the respect to Chris Carter, who we saw, was it 2 weeks ago with the Randy Moss conversation, where his life was threatened a bit by that, still is, potentially, with the liver pancreatic cancer right on the border of the two. Whew, unreal. Scary story there. But yep, a drive at stall. That's where Reichart got his 25-yarder to make it 10-3, and it's like we're all frustrated thinking, man, that could have been... if not for dumb penalties or just missed opportunities, this and that, mostly missed opportunities, could have been 14-3, could have been higher, could have been this, could have been that. Sometimes my math's all mixed up because I forget, we had to kick a field goal along the way. But that 13-3 kick, that one just totally felt like the Vikings should have had something going there. Like terrible, terrible clock management at the end of the first half. We had over a minute. And then we completed a pass to Justin Jefferson in the middle of the field, and there's 19 seconds left. What the bloody hell are we doing? Like, bugger off on that, or bugger off that. That's swearing in Australian, basically. Bugger off with that nonsense. 13-3. Vikings were able to get that field goal, and that's where all that stupid drama happened with the multiple timeouts and LaFleur acting like a frickin' idiot. It was annoying. No, I wasn't trying to get myself kicked off of podcasting for the rest of my life, but he was a schmuck. I don't know, a frickin' idiot. I don't know. No, I wasn't trying to get that other word, sorry. Or F word, okay. We can go with that, too. 13-3 Vikings. And that's where I kept saying, see that missed opportunity earlier where we had a chip shot field goal, had to settle for that. What if that was 14-3 right there? And then you have another touchdown instead. You have another touchdown. It could have been 21-3 at the half, but no, it's 13-3. Okay, 2-possession lead. It's fine, but you're leaving plays on the field and it needs to freaking stop. Especially, when you're literally blowing 40 seconds. A lot of people were comparing it to Eberflus of the Bears against the Detroit Lions. I mean, that game should have been won by the Bears. It could have really been nice. Just imagine if the Bears won that football game. The Vikings would be in sole position at first right now, and hoping maybe the Niners kind of take care of business, then we wouldn't have to win next week. I mean, we can, and it would be great if we did, but we wouldn't have to, that kind of thing. Like, it's still okay if we win. Like, maybe both teams would have kind of taken a break, trying to prevent injuries to key players, or really, you don't want anybody hurt. You don't want your backup linebacker hurt, but if you really need him, what if you want, you know what I mean? Or like a running back you use a lot, even though maybe he's not your main guy, like a Cam Akers or even a Ty Chandler. You don't want those guys getting hurt either, but at the same time, you absolutely don't want the main starters hurt, that type of thing. Just saying. That's why you kind of give other people like the Nick Mullins a chance to go out there and hurl the ball around and maybe make some money as he goes into free agency. Maybe comes back here, but who knows. I like the guy. Obviously, he was a bit erratic. And it's just so crazy as last year we were going into New Year's Eve playing this Packer team, and you had Jaron Hall. I mean, just how things have changed so much. Like, putting into perspective here, again, so I'll just say once again, I hope everybody had a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah and Happy Kwanzaa currently now to those of you that celebrate it. That's current now. Sometimes Hanukkah's earlier. I think Kwanzaa is usually after Christmas, like right at the same time, but after. But I'll claim ignorance on that because I celebrate Christmas. I don't follow super closely as to where every holiday is. So What am I getting to? Yes, last New Year's Eve. That's when the Vikings played the Packers. Was New Year's Eve last year, and that was a that was an abomination of football. That was you'd rather have the Hopkins Royals out there against against the '85 Bears. I mean, that's basically what it looked like. It looked like the Hopkins Royals against the '85 Bears in their prime, like all those players in their prime. You know what I mean? Before poor Leslie Frazier hurt his knee in the, returning the ball. I think it was second half. I think of that Super Bowl and never played again. Poor guy. Still got his ring though, and absolutely was a part of that '85 Bears team. But a devastating injury to Leslie Frazier. Very sad. Former Vikings defensive coordinator and head coach, of course. Great guy, yes. But he got his ring as a player. That was awesome. So what am I getting to? Jaron Hall started at quarterback. It was horrendous football. It was embarrassing. It was awful. I kind of almost want to look that up just to put into perspective where we were last year. Like, think about where we were last year at this time. You had a future, and it's like you're hoping, okay, can we move on from Kirk Cousins and draft, like a J.J. McCarthy or something, this guy in Michigan who's looking like he might be spectacular, that type of thing. Yeah, New Year's Eve 2023, Vikings actually managed 10 points in that game. I'm shocked. But it was a lifeless, awful game, and it was in U.S. Bank Stadium. Nick Mullins ended up taking over because Jaron Hall couldn't do a whole lot. He was horrendous. He was in over his head. He got sacked 3 times. I'm surprised Nick Mullins even completed... I'm surprised Nick Mullins played as much as he did, and he didn't throw an interception. And I think that's why after that mess of a game against Detroit last year when he threw, 4 interceptions in that game? It was weird. He threw a ton of yardage, but a ton of interceptions too. And Love was just kind of doing whatever he wanted out there. There was just no energy in that building. So here we are in this situation, even though as annoying and frustrating and scary as this game was, a lot like the one earlier in the season, where the Vikings again won by 2 points with the Green Bay Packers team roaring back. Thankfully, a Will Reichart kick helped wrap things up for the Minnesota Vikings down the stretch there. And some clutch drives by Mr. Sam Darnold. That was the second of 2 weeks and the final week ever that I would get to be in Medicine Lake for an extended period. It was a lot of fun because the weather was like 80 degrees and it was dry and warm and comfortable and the water was warm enough to be in. It was freaking awesome. I was watching the game, standing in the lake. Can you imagine? I mean, that's like a dream. It's awesome. It's awesome. And it's in Minnesota on September 29th. Think about that. And then now it's like foggy and nasty and you don't know where the heck you're going out there. Vikings have a 27-10 lead and they watch it all evaporate. Of course, I don't know. Matt LaFleur goes for 2 because he wants to get to a point where if they're down by, 1 score in this situation, I mean, it was set up for this possibility. The Packers would be only trailing by 2 points. The field goal wins it. And McManus has kind of been McMoney, unfortunately. But thankfully, the Minnesota Vikings will not be caught by the Green Bay Packers in either football game or in the regular season standings. The Vikings will finish ahead of the Green Bay Packers this year, no matter what. The Vikings sweep the Packers by a total score of 4 points. 4 points. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Anyhow. Remember Halloween week, so it's kind of like a reciprocal here. It's kind of funny. It's a reciprocal. This is the darndest, strangest thing. Has this ever happened before? It probably has, but it's weird though. So put this into perspective real quick. Okay, so last year the Vikings beat the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field 2 days before Halloween, when Kirk Cousins has the Achilles tendon, and then we play the 31st, which is the 31st, right? So it's New Year's Eve. This year, okay, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Well, kind of. This year we're playing against the Packers 2 days after, or 2 days before New Year's Eve instead, and the Vikings win this one. But thankfully, no Achilles tendons to talk about, and yeah, there's nothing with Halloween, so never mind. It wasn't on Halloween this year, so that would have been an insane coincidence. Nope, it was September 29th, but it is a reciprocal in terms of, last year was 2 days before Halloween, and then New Year's Eve. This year it's 2 days before New Year's Eve. Okay, it's weird. Sorry, I had to get into that. I just had to because I'm very strange. But also, again, wanted to put into perspective where the Vikings are at right now with a 14-2 team, and having swept the Packers, and not having to talk about Achilles tendons, not having to talk about, well, we do have to talk about what we're going to do at quarterback next year, because we have a good problem this time. It isn't like, oh no, do we have to bring Cousins back, or are we gonna have a high enough pick to get the guy we want? Or is it gonna be like just Will Levis again, and the coach doesn't want a guy like that, like somebody like that again? Luckily, we're picking higher this time, so hopefully there will be someone there. Hopefully it's not just Bo Nix, because if it is, I think we're gonna wait another year. That's what I would do. Yes, then maybe Sam Darnold does get inked long term if that took place. Probably. Otherwise, here we are still looking at J.D. McCarthy. I still see McCarthy as the Vikings' future, but Darnold is definitely the present, at least for this year, and maybe starting next year, next year with a franchise tag. Anyhow, back to the game itself. This might be long, it might be weird, but you came into the second half thinking, yeah, this is kind of frustrating. Hopefully the Vikings can keep this going. And they did have a fairly time-consuming drive. It felt awesome. Vikings had a fairly time-consuming drive, which ended with Jordan Addison catching a touchdown. Yep, this is one of the other plays that were left on the field where Addison just could not bring in a touchdown pass earlier. That's where I was talking about. The Vikings might have been up 27-10 or something much earlier in the game. 27 or like 28-3. It could have been possibly 28-3 if Addison brought in one of those. But that was that 25-yard field goal, so you would subtract 3 points from that. So I think it was going to be 24-3 would have been the score if, say, everything went well there instead of being kind of a mess, like dropping touchdowns and stuff like that, and golden opportunities that were just lost and left on the field. But whatever, the Vikings were up 20-3. You thought we're probably going to be okay. But then here come the Packers again. Josh Jacobs, and again, he was tough to deal with most of the day. He was. I mean, there was an extended period where Josh Jacobs had more rushing yards than Love had passing yards, which isn't supposed to happen. Thankfully, that would get contained a bit as the game would progress. Unfortunately, Love would kind of catch up to the pack, pun not intended, and the Vikings would eventually finally get a couple of sacks. One of them, of course, going to our guy Dallas Turner. He also had Blake Cashman with 1.5 and sharing on with Andrew Van Ginkel, who's, I believe, done 11.5 this year now. Blake Cashman, again, the Vikings undefeated with him healthy and on the field. So maybe the Vikings win the Super Bowl this year with Blake Cashman out there on the field. Maybe we do. Maybe this is our year. I hope so. I really do. Stephon Gilmore had a pretty good game for the most part, containing the guys in front of him. Like 5 tackles, of course, guys catch the ball, you're going to get beat a little bit. Murphy was flagged for one of the weakest pass interference calls I've ever seen. It was very ticky-tack. What was the other one? Redmond was called for offsides, which was the second insanely bad offsides call. The first one was on the Packers at the end of the first half. Redmond later on. That was devastating, really frustrating. But luckily, again, it was not fatal to the Minnesota Vikings. Thankfully, as the Vikings ultimately would get the stops they need, but at the end of the day, and would get the first downs, moving the chains that they needed in order to survive this game in crazy fashion, to say the least. Powell even dropped a ball. Luckily, that was not a fumble lost. Like I mentioned, Ryan Wright did not have a particularly good day. His long was 41. What did he have? Like a really short one. Luckily, no touchbacks for Ryan Wright, but it was kind of a meh punt. What did they call it? Yeah, it's like a line drive, that type of thing. And then Will Reichart, again, missing 2 kicks. First one was 58. It just didn't have enough juice on it for some reason. It was just barely not enough. And the 48-yarder was on the side. So it was a miss, a flat-out miss. 48-yarders indoors, you're supposed to make those. So that was one of the more disappointing kicks of the season for Will Reichart. So hopefully we're not going into the postseason scared to death with this guy blowing it for us at the time we need him the most. So hopefully that is not the case. Jordan Addison finished with 6 catches, 69 yards, and of course a touchdown. She could have had 2 touchdowns and closer to 100 yards, but unfortunately that just wasn't meant to be at the end of the day. Cam Akers had a couple of solid runs. He did have a 16-yard run, but he also was stopped several times along the way. A couple of losses, unfortunately, but the Packers' front 4 is pretty good. The Packers' front 4 is definitely a threat. Their run defense is above average, no doubt about it. They contained Aaron Jones, even though he had some big plays as well. But generally speaking, He was contained, but he had some clutch plays, and he also was limited down the stretch. You saw a lot more of Akers and Chandler when the Vikings were trying to run the clock down as the Packers kept trying to get closer and closer and closer in this game, and we were basically trying to deny them the ball, including a 13-yard run by C.J. Ham, which put the Vikings in better position to possibly end the game. Though, thank God that was able to happen down the stretch. That was, some scary moments, no doubt about it. C.J. Ham, again, with that 13-yard run. That was our catch and run, pardon me, by C.J. Ham. That felt like $1 million at the end of the day. One of the scarier ones out there, though, it's just, I don't know. There were definitely questionable calls several times. Again, a holding call on Cam Robinson, again, negated. What could have been a big play. Extremely disappointing. Could have been one of the better plays of the season, and then it doesn't count again. Cam Robinson, another meh day. Some penalties have been coming up again on old Cam Robinson. So that's very disappointing. Cam Akers did get in the end zone with a receiving touchdown. That's his third overall touchdown of the year, I believe. And I think it's his fourth. It's his third with Minnesota. Because I'm pretty sure he's had 2 receiving touchdowns with the Vikings this year. This is his second, I do believe. Where is it? Yeah. This is his second receiving touchdown. So it's his third touchdown with Minnesota, but he also had a receiving touchdown against the Minnesota Vikings. So every single touchdown Cam Akers scored this season was with the Vikings on the field. He scored a touchdown against the Vikings. I think it was the only points scored against the Vikings by the Houston Texans earlier this season. It was a receiving touchdown. I was actually clapping for him because I felt pretty comfortable the Vikings were going to win that game with how well it was going. Because it's like I was happy for Cam. And then he comes back here in that trade, and he's healthy this time. And, he's provided some nice plays. And now I'm remembering my extreme frustrations in that 25-yard kick. Cam Akers was, wide open for what might have been a receiving touchdown. It might have been a catch, and he would have had to break, I think, at least one tackle. He would have had to get past at least one guy to get in. But it would have been a heck of a lot better than simply an incomplete pass. That was insanely frustrating. As there was some miscommunication, Akers didn't realize the ball was thrown to him. He thought it was going to, I believe it was Addison, or was it Naylor on the left side? It was one of the receivers. He thought it was going to the receivers. It was going a little more wide, but the toss was to Akers, and he was just thinking, my bad, I'm sorry. It was one of those kind of situations, so it's a bummer. Just kind of gritting his teeth, like, I can't believe I just did that, so that's unfortunate, to say the least, but luckily Akers would get in the end zone later on. So, solid. Obviously it's nice to have him. He was meant to be a starting running back when he was taken in the second round by the Rams. I think he would have been better than Addison last year, but then his Achilles popped, and it's like, what can you do? For the second time was the other foot. So, huge bummer there at the end of the day for Cam. Otherwise, let's look to pass out the awards here. Again, this is an entertaining game. Definitely scary. A couple of scary things. Seeing the Packers come back on the Vikings again, and of course, multiple misses by Reichart. You're hoping he can make that 58-yarder, but easier said than done. You go out and do it, Sonny boy. Some other person. So obviously, 58-yarders are not easy, but you're hoping he can make it. But the 43-yarder was extremely disappointing. That's you don't want to think of some crappy Bears kicker that cost them a playoff game against the Eagles or anything, do you? You don't want to think about that. Yeah, we don't want to be like that. We don't want to be, like Nagy's Bears when there's a double doink. I don't want any double doinks here. I don't want any single doinks either when you're trying to go to the Super Bowl and possibly win the dang thing. Wouldn't that be amazing? Screen is freezing. That's always really wonderful. Yeah, this is just great. Screen's freezing. Great. Hopefully you can hear what I'm saying right now. It looks like that's functioning. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, it's moving now. It was caught somewhere. The Fran Tarkington Award winner, it's going to still go to Darnold besides that, despite that, that forced play that ended up being an interception. Quarterback rating was still 116.1 because he was absolutely epic the whole game. 43 attempts, 33 completions, 377 yards, 3 touchdowns. Yeah, he's pretty much on his way for the MVP for this year for Purple Mafia. And like I said last week, the 2006 Purple Mafia MVP was definitely Chester Taylor. 2007, I think we all know who that would go to. Adrian Peterson for sure. So those two guys will get the Purple Mafia MVP for those seasons, because even though those were 2 years. No, 2006 was 2 years. 2007 was the year before Purple Mafia officially started. But I did do paladinolive that year. Minnesota Vikings conversation. That was fun. Purple Mafia didn't exist yet, but I did do paladinolive on YouTube. Who knows where that would have gone, because YouTube seems to be the way to go for podcasting in a lot of ways. But I'm not a fan of video. I can do it, though. I mean, I don't have to do nearly as much editing as I would have back then. That was short videos with a lot of editing, where now it would just be a podcast, but just kind of on video. And I don't know. One of these days I'll finally get the balls to do something like that, because it seems like that's the way to go. Because I'm not getting too far right now, am I? The show's been plateauing for like a decade, it seems like. Outside of that, though, the Christian Pounder Memorial, I guess it's... I'm gonna give it to two guys today. Cam Robinson stopped with the damn penalties. What's going on? I like Cam Robinson, but he's been struggling. I'm beginning to think he's hurt or something a little bit. Maybe needs a week off or something. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't necessarily mean like he sits out. It's just hopefully we can get that bye week, huh? Get that first round bye. That would be nice, since only one team can get it nowadays. Back in the day, second seed could get it, but we could only be the number one seed in this case. If we do anything, 1 or 5, I'll take 1. And the other guy that gets it is Will Reichart, of course. It's because of the 43-yarder. That's kind of scary, a little bit worrisome. Didn't miss any extra points, so let's not even think about that. So that's where we're going with that. The refs definitely struggled, I thought, today too. Bad calls both on the Packers and the Vikings throughout the game today, so I guess misery loves company, and both teams were a bit frustrated with the officiating in today's football game. The Washington Commanders with Jaden Daniels at quarterback and Michael Penix, rookie versus rookie, on Sunday Night Football. The Falcons and the Redskins. This sounds like a playoff game in the 80s. Steve DeBerg? No, he was the Chiefs. No, was he the Cardinals or Chiefs quarterback back in the day? I think he's the Chiefs quarterback, but maybe he played for the Cardinals too for a minute. He definitely played for the Falcons very late in his career. The Redskins, obviously, yeah, they've had that. They had Rippey and they had Doug Williams. Yeah, that was the Redskins. Now they're the Commanders. Yay! Rumors about the Redskins possibly coming back, the old name. So we'll see. They've certainly kept the color scheme, but they look different. No doubt, it's a different uniform now. Well, good for them. Anyhow, yep. Dan Quinn going against his former club here. And Kirk Cousins not the starter. It is Michael Penix. Michael Penix with his ACL intact. Good for him, yes. I don't want him getting hurt again. That would suck. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, come back, and we're going to kind of jump right back into this and look at the look all over the league, the playoff picture, and, of course, talk about the Detroit Lions, baby. And we are back here on Purple Mafia segment number 2, just in time pretty much for when I usually do segment number 2, so I feel happy about how this is going. Sunday Night Football, Wild, Wolves will be coming up in a little bit. I love when you can have multiple things going on. It's fun. It's good. It can be a little distracting, a little trifle distracting, but sometimes it's fun at the end of the day. So yes, Washington leads 7-0 right now. Next week's opponent, the Detroit Lions, don't play until tomorrow night. It's going to be awesome, and thankfully have that night off. Thankfully to don't have to work tomorrow. That's awesome. So I get to see that. Niners hosting the Detroit Lions, and apparently, no matter what happens, Vikings have to beat the Lions in order to have the number 1 seed. Otherwise, we'll be 5th seed no matter what if we lose next Sunday. So it's a must-win because Detroit sweeps the Vikings, who has the tiebreaker. Detroit, of course. So otherwise, we beat Detroit. And apparently we have the tiebreaker, especially if San Francisco beats them. But apparently we do hold destiny in our hands. Beat Detroit. Easier said than done, but yes, anything is possible, as a former Minnesota Timberwolf once said. But he was with the Celtics at the time he said it. Christmas Day. Why the heck are we playing football on Christmas on Wednesday? I don't know. Stop making people work, damn it. Stop making people work on Christmas. It's bad enough the NBA has 5 frickin' games. So that, yeah, it's kind of silly. And of course the bleeping Chiefs won, and they won comfortably over Pittsburgh. I remember many years ago. No, I didn't want the Chiefs to win that one either. 29-10. I kind of liked Pittsburgh way back in the day when Neil O'Donnell was the quarterback. Yeah, because it was way after they won those Super Bowls in the 70s and all that. So I didn't have a hatred for the Steelers that some of the older fans do or did at the time. Now I don't like the Steelers. No, not so much. But I don't like the Chiefs either. I was a huge Steelers fan in this game, even though I didn't really watch it much. Patrick Mahomes had a more Patrick Mahomes-like stat line in this one compared to what he's had pretty much all frickin' season. 320 yards, 3 touchdowns, 38 attempts, 29 completions. Russell Wilson back at quarterback again and threw an interception, unfortunately, and 205 yards total. Najee Harris, 13 rushes, 74 yards, almost 6 yards a carry. Jalen Warren, 6.5 yards a carry, 11 carries, 77 yards, and Russell Wilson also ran for 55. Pat Freiermuth with 7 catches and 60 yards, no touchdowns receiving for any of the Steelers receivers. The Steelers did not get to Patrick Mahomes once, not one single sack. I love when Patrick Mahomes gets sacked. That means that there's a chance the Chiefs might lose the game. Unfortunately, Russell Wilson was sacked like 50 times in this game. Matt Dana with 2, Tershawn Wharton with 1, George Karlaftis, okay, never mind, with a sack, and Felix F-A-U, yeah, bleeping a-hole U, okay, sorry, I'm just kidding. Felix Azuma, Felix Anudek Azuma, I think I got it. It's a sack there. Yeah, they had 5 sacks on Russell Wilson, and the Steelers had 0 sacks at Patrick Mahomes, and he had a pretty good day. Hopefully that's the best he plays the rest of the year. Hopefully that's it. I hope, because I don't want the Chiefs to win another Super Bowl like ever again. I'd probably cheer for the Packers over the Chiefs. That's how sick of them I am. Oh yeah, kind of like the Steelers and Packers. We'll get off of that. Yeah, I got sick of the Steelers back then. Anyhow, Baltimore 32, Houston 2. Merry Christmas to all of you in NRG Stadium. Wow, no running game. Oh, that was a good one. But don't the isn't that where they're good though? Yeah. Okay, NRG, no running game. That was a good one. Well, they couldn't run because they were trailing the whole game. No running game stadium. Do you like that? Joe Mixon with 9 rushes, 26 yards. No running game stadium. C.J. Stroud, 17 completions, 31 on 31 attempts, 185 yards. And, of course, Tank Dell had that devastating knee injury. It was Teddy Bridgewater-like. It was. I read the information on it. I think I talked about it, didn't I? Or maybe it was after the game review. Yeah, I was driving around afterward. ACL, MCL, LCL, and meniscus damage. Are you kidding me? Good God. And it was a dislocated knee. That sounds like Teddy Bridgewater. Tank Dell, I'm wishing you the best. I hope you're okay. I really do. I can't even imagine the pain. I can't imagine the shock, the trauma. And I think the whole team is just kind of like, it's just a different vibe. Just a different vibe. I mean, your team was promising this year, and then something like that happens. And the guy scores a touchdown in the play. Can you imagine you score a touchdown, and you can't even, enjoy it because you're in so much pain, and your season's absolutely done, and your career might be in trouble too. Awful, awful, awful story. I'm still talking about it because it was so bad. And I didn't really talk about the actual extent of the injury until right now. Because I remember reading about it after the show. I was driving around looking at Christmas lights, as I was wont to do, trying to feel better. Yeah. And my goodness, I couldn't believe what I was reading. I mean, it's like any sickness I felt in my gut earlier was coming back pretty quick. ACL, MCL, LCL, LCL. I mean, yeah, that's like, yeah, because it was hitting the side so hard. Oh, man. And that's kind of what it's like, a dislocation. Now, I dislocated my left pinky when a ball was checked awkwardly and kind of like wildly back to me when we were playing basketball on kind of a moist night, right? We're out shooting hoops. It was kind of a moist night. I think it had been raining earlier in the day, and it was humid and crap. And the ball took a nasty bounce. It was thrown wildly back to me, kind of just we're messing around, screwing around. And I was like, it's dislocated. The top of my, see, there's like the main joint and like the two, whatever, pieces of pieces of bone, like your main top of your finger and the next little joint underneath, they were bent all the way back. So it was like the weirdest. It was like up and then sideways. It was like a 90-degree angle. And I'm like, it's dislocated. Look, it's dislocated. And then Marcus said, pull it up, like pull it out and then put it back in place. And, okay, yeah. But then it hurt. We kept playing, but I couldn't even hold on to the ball. It was weird. Even though it's just a pinky finger. Imagine that's your knee. Yeah. Imagine that's your knee. And how much damage there would have to be for your knee to do that. I mean, this is a pinky finger, and it hurt for 6 frickin' months. I'm not even kidding. It took 6 months to heal. Pinky finger. There probably was tendon damage. I'm sure there was. It hurt like a bleep. It moved real weird, too. But I don't think, but it wasn't permanent. I mean, it does look different. There's like more of a bump on the side than the other one. It was my left pinky. Pinky finger. Knee. Which one do you think hurt more? Which one do you think is scarier and more devastating? Oh, Tank Dell. Okay, I know I went on way too long about that, but it's sad. 31-2, the Houston Texans look like they're still going to win their division, looks like, possibly. 31-2. Baltimore wins comfortably. Possibly, some people see them as a team that could go to the Super Bowl. NFC North roundup, the Bears aren't even worth talking about anymore, but I guess we will for a short time. We'll keep going. That was Thursday Night Football. It was one of the worst Thursday night games ever, and that's saying something. This was a Saturday night game, which I think are fun. I like this time of year when you get Saturday football. New England Patriots managed 7 lousy points. The Chargers managed 40 lousy points in Gillette Stadium. I think there was a time years ago this could have been the opposite. Brady in his prime with Randy Moss against a Chargers team. Well, they were kind of good back then, I think, too. Justin Herbert finally had one of those games that you're thinking, okay, is Justin Herbert ever going to actually put up any numbers, or is it going to be like 150 yards and a touchdown every week? Well, 281 yards and 3 touchdowns. Taylor Heineke got in and had 2 incompletions late because it was a blowout. I mean, you just sit him out. Come on. Drake May, 22 attempts, 12 completions, 117 yards and a touchdown. Anything else? Not really. He ran for 32 yards and he lost a fumble. Let's keep going. Chargers killed the Patriots. Sorry, I talked too much earlier, so we're going to keep going. One that was a heck of a lot more exciting. These are all Saturday games on the 28th. Cincinnati, 30-24. Staying alive, ha ha ha, staying alive. And they're competing with Denver to possibly make the postseason. They had to make a little bit of a back and forth, kind of a comeback. Burrow was able to hit T. Higgins for the win and wrap things up as they had the golden opportunities. The Broncos tied it up with only 14 seconds left after Burrow had scored a touchdown to put the Bengals up by 7 with 1:31 left. Bo Nix was able to get Marvin Mims Jr. to tie it up, unfortunately, but then Burrow took it to the end zone with T. Higgins, one of the top receivers over there, of course. 131 yards and 3 touchdowns for him. That's a fantasy Super Bowl winner, very possibly. Just imagine if you had Burrow and Higgins, if you had the dual effect there. Burrow threw no interceptions and he did not lose a fumble. No, he didn't, but Higgins did. You idiot. Come on, Higgins. Hang on to the ball, dude. Oh, yeah, and Burrow also ran one in. Oh, my Lord. So that made up for that. Whew, but Burrow had to do it. 3 touchdown passes, one rush, 412 yards. 412 yards. It's like, boom, like a nuclear bomb, man. Jamar Chase also had 9 catches for 102 yards, but no touchdowns. T. Higgins and Burrow. Epic game. Still managed only 30 points. You think it was like 58 or something. 30 points, but they beat the Broncos and are staying alive. It's a crying shame that this Cincinnati team doesn't have a better record. and have a real shot at possibly being a Super Bowl contender. But as long as it's not at our expense, I suppose. Hopefully they beat the Chiefs somewhere along the way, especially in the future when Cincinnati might have a chance to win a Super Bowl, not at our expense. But it would be interesting to see Minnesota, Cincinnati in a Super Bowl. Burrow, J.J. McCarthy versus Burrow in a Super Bowl. Maybe that day will come. Burrow will be the veteran, McCarthy will be the young guy. Pretty cool. I'm sure you already figured that out before I did. The Rams are a first-place team after starting the season 1-4. They're 10-6, and a chance to go 11-6 next week and clinch the division. They have not officially done so yet. Arizona's out, and Kyler Murray, like I talked about on Twitter or X or whatever, they got to move on from Kyler. Arizona will never win anything with Kyler Murray at quarterback. They'll win some games. He'll put up some nice numbers. 321 yards with 2 interceptions. Both of them were just like, come on, man, really, Kyler? The first one was just kind of a gamble, and the next one was just, I don't know, like, dude, you had a chance to possibly have a game-winning drive there, and you threw an interception. It's just, God, you suck. He's not the guy. Kyler Murray is not the guy. Talented, but he's not good enough. He'd be a spectacular backup or a nice kind of like, okay, he's our quarterback, that type of thing. But if you see him as like a number 1 overall pick, you've made a mistake. He's a disappointment as far as I'm concerned. Or he needs a Kevin O'Connell type of guy for a head coach. Arizona hired a defensive coach. So their defense is pretty good. It didn't look too spectacular against us, but it's generally a pretty good defense there with Gannon as the coach. But I don't know. McBride had a great day, 123 yards and a touchdown, but it just wasn't good enough at the end of the day. The Rams ended up beating them in a very close defensive battle, 13-9, mostly with Kyler Murray's interceptions did not help down the stretch. I just don't think he's that great. He's very meh. And there's a time. Imagine Sam Darnold versus Kyler Murray. Imagine. That might have even been the same draft. Was it? I think it might have been. Might have been 2019. No, I think Darnold was 18. It was actually the year after. I forget who went first overall in 18. Because I remember the Vikings beat a rookie Darnold in 18. That was the last time we played the Jets. Maybe it was 19. I don't know what the heck. No, I have no idea. Because we played the Jets this year. That would have been 2020. I have no freaking idea. I'm confused in my head right now. Completely confused. Stafford was just okay, really. He wasn't anything special. The Rams' defense was pretty good, and Puka Nacua with some big plays, 10 catches, 129 yards, did not get in the end zone. It's mostly the Rams' defense and Kyler Murray making mistakes. That's kind of the difference, I think. So, I don't know. Let's keep going. Buffalo just walloped the Jets 40-14. A lot of people see Buffalo as like the second most likely team to win the Super Bowl behind the Chiefs. And I think they have the Lions third and the Vikings fourth as most likely teams to win the Super Bowl. So we are in the top 4, are the Minnesota Vikings. The Jets are a million light years away from any Super Bowl. Tyrod Taylor was actually really good, but so what? It was garbage time. 2 touchdowns, 83 yards, a quarterback rating of 131. Mitchell Trubisky also had a perfect quarterback rating because he threw the ball once and it was a 69-yard touchdown, so that's funny in garbage time. Allen, yep, they got him out of there. 2 touchdowns, 182 yards. He also ran into the end zone with 17 yards. But we'll get off of this one now. 40-14. The Buffalo Bills are 13-3, trying to go all the way. So much for Stephon Diggs. Not only is he not playing for Houston, he's got an ACL. It's unbelievable. He's not going to any Super Bowl with them or anytime soon. New Orleans got shut out by Green Bay that last week, just embarrassed. Or was it a different game 2 weeks ago? I can't remember. I think it was 34-0 Green Bay over New Orleans. It was terrible. I think it was last Monday or something, right? 20-10, the Vegas Golden Nobodies. The Vegas Raiders get their 4th win of the year. It was the black and silver versus the black and gold. Actually, really cool, I think. It's a cool matchup in terms of the color schemes and all that stuff. I like that. But, man, didn't New Orleans start the year 2-0? 5-11. The Raiders have been awful for a while, 4-12. Man. Amir Abdullah. Ever heard of Amir Abdullah? Our third running back years ago? And occasionally he'd be a nice third down running back. He'd receiving kind of guy. at times. He did have 3 catches for 32 yards in the game. So, yeah, that's good. Nice receiving back. Oh, by the way, Amir Abdullah, Tecmo Bowl football. Hello, Bo Jackson. Amir Abdullah. Amir. Not Amira. Amir Abdullah. That's what's coming off. Amir Bo Jackson Abdullah had 20 rushes, 117 yards, almost 6 yards a carry. Just unbelievably, and he didn't have any huge long, just a 17. Just unbelievably effective. Amir bleeping Abdullah. Spencer Rattler, again, one of those settle picks. Another one, Gosh, you ain't going to win any Super Bowls with Spencer Rattler. I'm sorry. Aiden O'Connell, you ain't winning any Super Bowls with him either. He was kind of a mid-round, kind of a pick kind of guy. Just last year. Sometimes I don't realize that. Yeah, that's why I'd never heard of Aiden O'Connell before last year. But kind of threw him to the Wolves last year because they didn't really have anybody else. Aiden O'Connell, yeah, I mean, he's 4th-round pick, and he's not a quarterback, man. He's not a quarterback. Come on. He's not an NFL starter. Nah. Spencer Rattler, nope. Both of those clubs got to be looking for somebody big in the future. We'll see. The Giants. The Giants. We'll get to them in a minute. That was weird. 25-10, the Raiders beat the Saints. You thought that was weird? Well, how about this one? Indianapolis Colts had 7 wins coming into this game, right? 7 wins. Going to MetLife Stadium, you think, okay, yeah, in the past, going to playing against the Giants in MetLife, it's a little scary. Season opener, you never know how the Vikings are going to do with this Sam Darnold guy at quarterback. He was kind of meh as a Jets quarterback and didn't play at all last year. He was below average with the below average Panthers. And then, what happens? Joe Flacco starts as the Colts quarterback, 2 interceptions because what's his name can't hit the broadside of the barn and he's hurt all the time. That Anthony Richardson guy. Jonathan Taylor, another great game, but not as crazy as last week. What did he have, like 200 yards and 3 touchdowns last week? This week, 125 and 2 touchdowns. An epic game. Back and forth. Can you top this? You thought this was Super Bowl something here. 45-33, the Giants score 45 points against this Colts team. What the heck? 45 points against the Colts. Flacco had a fumble and 2 interceptions in the game. 3 turnovers for the ancient Joe Flacco. Not a single sack by the Colts. Giants only had 2 sacks, the Giants. They managed 45 points in the game. Drew Lock threw the ball only 23 times, but 4 touchdowns and 309 yards. Quarterback rating was just under perfection. Incredible. Malik Neighbors with 171 yards. Yep. So somebody had him in their starting lineup for a fantasy championship, and they probably won. Or at least that helped them if nobody, or maybe nobody else did anything. I had a couple of guys this year. Somebody starts Drew Lock. They're accounted for 5 touchdowns in this game. 4 touchdowns throwing, 1 touchdown running, and no interceptions and no fumbles by Drew Lock. He was a lock for somebody's Super Bowl today. Had to be. It's fantasy Super Bowl. The Giants of all teams. Wow, and Michael Pittman, who did absolutely nothing for me all year. You might as well add an SH. Take out the P. Michael Thatman. That's what he was all year. He finally did something at the last second. Oh, I'm going to put Michael Pittman in my Super Bowl. Yeah, sure I am. Yeah. Sure I am. Oh, maybe I should have. Give me a break. Eagles 41-7. Comfortable win over a Cowboys team where their season's over. Probably cleaning house who knows? It's Jerry Jones. Who knows? Jerry Jones, I don't know what planet he's on anymore. I don't think he does either. Kind of reminds you of the outgoing something in January. We'll leave that right where it is. You can figure that out on your own. Doesn't know where he is. 41, and we don't know where he is either. 41. Okay, Jerry Jones isn't that bad, but he still is. He's still. I wouldn't want him running my team. Put it that way. 41-7. Philadelphia destroys the Cowboys with Pickett. Kenny Pickett was at quarterback. Not quite as unlucky this week as he was last week. This guy named Tanner McGee also threw 4 passes and 2 touchdowns for a basically perfect quarterback rating. Pickett only attempted 15 passes and threw a touchdown. Did not lose the ball. No fumble. Saquon Barkley, 167 yards on the day. No touchdowns, though, so frustrating for people that might have had him in their fantasy day. Rushed through a couple of INTs for the Cowboys. Below average performance by him. Saquon Barkley, what does he need? Like 106 yards, I believe, to set the all-time record. So he's like Adrian Peterson back in 2012 going against the Packers. So that's kind of what's going on. They're going against the Giants next week. So, yep, if he performs the way Jonathan Taylor did today, 125 yards, Saquon Barkley has the best rushing season of all time. But let's put into perspective something real quick. How many games did Adrian Peterson play in 2012? How many games did Dickerson play? Was that who it was? Of the Rams back in 1983. 16, right? I believe it was 16 by Dickerson. I think so. I think we were at 16 by then. Adrian played 16. Saquon will be playing his 17th game, so let's not forget that. But at the same time, Saquon Barkley has had an unbelievable season, and I think he should be the MVP. Interestingly enough, only 13 rushes, though, touchdowns. 1,838 coming into today's game, but yeah, at 160. He's just under 2,000. In fact, I think he's at 2,000. No? Huh. 167, right? 167, that's a big number. Yeah. Just 100 by itself would be one, yeah? Yeah, so he's over Saquon Barkley. Nope, he'd be just under 2,000. Just under 2,000. It's like 1995, I believe. Wow, 1995. I'm just doing everything in my head here. Right? Yeah, because, yeah, you need, no, 67. He's over. 2005. 2005. Excuse me. 38. Yeah, 67. He had 167, right? So, that's pretty sick. He's over 2,000 yards already. Unless they added that. But I don't think they did. Usually they don't on Yahoo. They're usually a day behind, which is annoying, but whatever. Tampa Bay also unleashing on the Carolina Panthers. They're trying to stay alive and win their division. 9-7 record. 48-14. I think Thielen did something today. People were talking about that. Yeah, 2 touchdowns. Both of those 14 points were both accounted for by Adam Thielen. 5 catches, 110 yards. Nice renaissance of a day. Couple of touchdowns. Baker Mayfield had, again, if it's your fantasy team, holy crap, and it's a Super Bowl, another one of those games. 5 touchdown passes. There was a lot of crazy, crazy games. You might have had some insanely high-scoring Super Bowls and fun to watch and heartbreaking if you're on the wrong side. Even Bryce Young had a solid game with 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 200 yards. Baker Bayfield, 359 yards, 5 touchdowns, a MVP season like MVP Culpepper type of a year in 2004 when he did that to the Cowboys. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, insanely impressive. No grape jelly stain and no fumble or anything like that. Mike Evans with 2 catches, 2 touchdowns, on 8 catches. Jalen McMillan, 2 touchdowns. Payne Durman with a touchdown. The ball was spread all over the place. Nobody even had 100 yards receiving in the game. Crazy. The Bucks staying alive and killing the Carolina Panthers 48-14. Keep moving, Sonny boy. Then we get into some real classics. Well, it's a rematch of the AFC title game in 1999. I've mentioned this about 50 times. Jacksonville and Tennessee again. Yuck. And it's the same garbage matchup it's been the last 20 years. Well, yeah, pretty much. Tennessee's had a couple of good years, so has Jacksonville, but most of the time they stink. 20-13 Jacksonville. Jacksonville wins their 4th game of the season. Tennessee was making a comeback at late, but it did not work out. Jacksonville got the job done. Mac Jones did not have an interception, but Mason Rudolph did. 2 touchdowns thrown by Mac Jones, maybe his best game of his career. 174 yards on the ground, 122 quarterback rating. Mac Jones had a spectacular performance against the Vikings earlier this season, if I remember correctly, in Britain. Did not work out. And we move on. We're not going to talk about that one too much. I'm not talking about that right now. Dennis Green. Miami versus the Brown Bags. Brown Bags scored only 3 Brown Bag points against a pretty good Miami defense. Dolphins are staying alive. Staying alive. I know you've heard that before. Tyler Huntley at quarterback, and he only had 4 incompletions. Pretty good. Oh my God, this is epic. Tyler Huntley versus Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Dorian Thompson-Robinson threw 47 passes in this football game. Do you need to hear any more? Is that all you need to know? Dorian Thompson-Robinson with 47 attempts, so the Browns lost. That's all you need to know. Tyler Huntley did run the ball in. Good for him. 52 yards on the ground. The Peace Man, Tyreek Hill with 9 catches and 105 yards. Yeah, but I don't dislike him nearly as much because I despise the Chiefs. Dolphins, I don't really have a problem at all. So I don't miss Tyreek Hill on the Chiefs. Man, that was annoying to watch. Ugh. But unfortunately, those sons of biscuits keep winning football games anyway. Dolphins are staying alive, 8-8. Let's look at the Bears game. Epic performance on Thursday Night Football. People that talk bad about Thursday night games had a field day on this one. The Seattle Mariners beat the White Sox. No, the Cubs. Seattle Mariners over the Cubs 6-3 in international or interleague play. Let's see. I think Frank Thomas hit a homer, but Ken Griffey Jr. had 2 homers in this one. Good for him. Couple of homers, 5 RBI for Mr. Griffey Jr. Frank Thomas had a 3-run dong. That's the only runs were accounted for in this one. Randy Johnson kept the. I'm talking about the White Sox. Cubs. Who would be there? Like Mark Grace? I don't know. Or Sosa. Sosa had a 3-run dong. Sorry. Randy Johnson though kept them in check enough. Only 2 earned runs in 7 innings, and later on the Seattle bullpen got the job done. They did give up 1 run, but it was okay. They kept the Cubs down, and the Mariners win. Well, that's not what happened. I don't know what to tell you. Geno Smith, no interceptions. Kalen Williams, 1 interception. It was a terrible game. Ugh. Incompletion after 3 and out, after incompletion, after tackle for loss, after 3-yard gain. DJ Moore had a big play in the game that was exciting for a minute, but then it just ended up, it was another drive that stalled out one way or another. Just yuck, terrible football game. Seattle ends up winning 6-3 in Chicago, whatever it's called, Soldier Field. Chicago Stadium, what am I talking about? Like the old Bulls? That must have been fun to watch, huh? A lot funner than this. Oof, yeah, the Bears. They boo a lot there. You know why? Because their offense has sucked in Chicago since forever. I mean, even in the Jim McMahon year. Okay, never mind. That was obviously the best offense probably they ever had because they had the best running back in the world. God rest his soul, Walter Payton, who died way too young. Way too young. 45 years old. Wow. Yeah, 1999. That was a great football team. That's why Walter Payton, Jim McMahon, and why I like the Bears, you know? They're the reason why I did, like when people talk about how they hate the Bears, it's like, yeah, I don't. Hate the Packers, yeah. The Lions get on my nerves. Their fans are really annoying. The Bears, I don't know. Chicago fans are a little different. Like they talk, but they're not jerks. You know what I mean? There's a difference. I remember when the Wild played against the Avalanche in the first round. Colorado, of course, if you don't know. And the Chicago Blackhawks in the second round, right? The Wild always would lose to the Blackhawks. It was awful. Avalanche fans are flat out jackasses. Like, they really are. Like, Denver Nuggets and Avalanche, complete jerks. Just mean, like annoying, rude, obnoxious. Bears fans talk, but then right after that, it's kind of like pat on the back. It's all in good fun. We're both sports fans. We love sports. And that's kind of like the response I got. You know, whenever they were talking, they were mad at me or whatever because I was trashing Marian Hossa. I guess he was a guy who was on the Blackhawks that spurned the Wild twice in free agency, so I went off on him. And then they were laughing at me, but then like, hey, it's all in good fun. We don't hate you. We don't have any. You know, it's a different vibe. So that's why I don't really have anything bad to say about Chicago teams. I just don't. It's different, you know. I'm not trashing on the Bears, even though like they're well, like I'll make fun of how bad it is, yeah, but I'm not trashing on the Bears in general, like and Bears fans and stuff like that. Packer fans are extremely annoying. Every time there's one good thing that goes right for them, they like get up in your face and it's ridiculous. So it's a different vibe. Now don't get me wrong, I would kiss the ground if I got into Lambeau Field. If I was able to walk on the field in Lambeau Field, I'd kiss the ground. That is spectacular history right there, no matter who you are. Especially if it was a bright blue sky and a cool day in like December, November, it'd be awesome. Anyhow, there I go into some kind of weird thing. It must be the quote-unquote holiday season. I don't know. Something about Chicago. It just feels 80s. It feels classic. I don't know. And Lambeau is just like, wow, forever, forever. And Wisconsin is a beautiful state. I'll say it straight out. It is. It is. It's prettier than, I think a lot of it's prettier than Minnesota. It's just more interesting. That's all. I'm just saying the state. I'm not saying the people. I'm saying the state. Even though there are nice people there too. They're not all bad. There I go, babbling forever. Now we're going against Michigan instead of Chicago, or now we're going up against Michigan instead of Chicago, Illinois, or Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Green Bay, whatever the heck it is. The Detroit Lions, Detroit Football Lions, 13-2, going up against the 49ers, rematch of the NFC Championship game. The Detroit Lions have the last laugh, at least as of right now. 49ers might be making some changes. I don't think they need to fire their coach. I really don't. I think Shanahan is one of the best. I don't want to see Shanahan as somebody that can't get over the hump. I still think he can, but they're going to unfortunately have to make some changes over there. But we'll see what happens. Will Purdy get a contract? I wouldn't be surprised if he does, but 49ers, maybe they're in position to make a huge move, and it better be the right one, because they've made a couple of moves lately, and they didn't work out. So it's a shame at the end of the day, the frustrations that have gone on in San Francisco of late, despite how damn close they were to winning championships. It's sad. Detroit is 13-2. Good Lord, 13-2. And again, this is coming into this week. Offense is number 1 in the league in points, number 2 in yards per game, passing yards per game, number 2, 5th in rushing yards, but again, Montgomery's out for the season. So you got to talk about that. Time of possession, number 2 in the league. They hang on to the ball, they run the ball, they throw the ball. They do a little bit of everything over there. Jared Goff's numbers are very comparable to a certain guy here in Minnesota too, though. Interesting. And both of them were draft picks that at the time didn't live up to the hype. They got to a new team, and Detroit might win a championship with Goff after losing a Super Bowl with in Los Angeles, getting shut down by the Patriots. Defensively, points against the Lions are 7th, but that's gone up. Now, last game they beat the Bears 34-17. The Bears just kind of, I don't know, it's just lame. Total yards against 19th. They do give up yards, passing yards against 240. And again, remember, their secondary has been devastated with injuries. So Darnold might go off for 400. We'll see. 240 yards a game given up. The rushing yards are 4th, but remember, they've been ahead, just like Minnesota has been ahead. So that's extremely important. The Lions are 23rd in sacks and 8th in interceptions. I should have clicked on the matchup instead so we could see the numbers together. I'll go back to the regular Lions here in a second. But, Fabian Moreau was out with a hip, interestingly, versus the other guy who had been out, that we were missing for a bit here, the veteran cornerback here in Minnesota, former Patriot, of course. Vikings are 30th in passing yards given up. But today, they didn't give up that many, did they? Rushing yards, both teams are incredibly high in rushing yards against. Vikings are number 1 in the league in interceptions, and we did not get one today, did we? So that's one thing to think about. Vikings have won 9 in a row. The Lions had won 10 in a row before losing to the Buffalo Bills recently, and then ultimately beating the Bears comfortably last week, only giving up 17 points to a Bears offense that is pathetic. Like, Frank Thomas might score more points for the Bears than what they have out there right now. But even though there is a couple of talented players like DJ Moore and Caleb Williams, it's just I don't know. There's not much there. There's not much there, if you know what I mean. Jahmyr Gibbs, again, coming into the 49ers game. Who knows what they're going to do tomorrow? And they have to win in order to, continue their standing. But then again, no, they don't. They could just kind of say screw it tomorrow and take the game off if they wanted and take guys out early. But we'll see. And then be ready for us. But maybe they don't want to screw around with that. Almost, basically 4,100 yards for Jared Goff, 33 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Jahmyr Gibbs, 200 rushes, 5.5 a carry. Killed us last time around. 1156 and 12 touchdowns running. Amon-Ra St. Brown with 1,126 yards and 11 touchdowns. 11 tutties for him. Crazy numbers. Crazy. David Montgomery again out for the year with a knee injury. Out for the year. He was like the Thunder and Lightning. Gibbs is the Lightning. Montgomery was the powerful Thunder. Both of them had 12 touchdowns rushing. That is sick. 24 rushing touchdowns between those two guys. Only two fumbled losses total between the two also. So that's impressive as well. Wow. Sam Laporta, the young tight end, 600 yards, 6 touchdowns. Jameson Williams. I don't know if he's hurt or what the deal is, but yeah. There are a lot of guys out for the year there in Detroit. That's important to put into perspective. Coming into the... Gosh, I got to click on this here. Come on, I clicked on it. Why isn't it loading? Don't you just love when computers do this? Everything just stops. Oh, God. Nothing's happening. Here it comes. I want to look at the injury report a little bit. Questionable with the neck for Jalen Reeves-Maybin. This is again going into San Francisco. Montgomery, of course, out. But why are they even listing him? He's out for the year. Khalif Raymond, out, wide receiver. But yeah, it's mostly their secondary and David Montgomery that are the issues for Detroit. If they end up not going to the Super Bowl this year, could be because of that, and maybe that'll help the Vikings get to the bowl. Are the Vikings going to beat the Detroit Lions in Detroit? And would it be our 10th consecutive game going into the playoffs? Could it be? Could it be happening that the Vikings are going to have a chance to win possibly 13, unlucky number of 13, but it ends up being our lucky number to win the whole enchilada. 13 games in a row, beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Man, that'd be sick, wouldn't it? It'd be sick in a good way. Did Penix just score a touchdown? I think so. Or is that Penix? I don't know. Oh, Penix is number 9. Okay, excuse me. The Falcons are now ahead of Washington. 2 touchdowns there by Atlanta. Interesting. What's going to happen in this one? Boy. I mean, it's going to have to be, again, they're giving up yardage in the air. And again, you got to exploit those injuries and beat those backups if you can. And then pray to God you can stop and contain Jahmyr Gibbs. You don't have to worry about Montgomery. So that does help. Montgomery's hurt the Vikings multiple years in a row. Detroit has won 4 consecutive games against the Minnesota Vikings. They have lost only 1 game against the Vikings since Dan Campbell took over. Dan Campbell took over in 2022. They started off terribly. The Vikings beat them by a couple points. They were just absolutely devastated. They were crying. What's his name was sad and upset. Wait a minute. Oh, okay, we did beat them twice. No, yeah, there was the one where we beat them by like 2 points, and then they beat us with a last-second touchdown. So we have beaten Campbell twice. I forgot about that last year. I forgot. The Vikings did beat Detroit once last year. But I think they were off to kind of a disappointing start, if I remember correctly. I forgot about this one. It's in U.S. Bank Stadium. I forgot. We did beat the Lions in U.S. Bank Stadium last year, didn't we? I forgot. Cousins, almost 300 yards. Good game. 22. This is not last year. It's 2 years ago. Yeah, that was that really good season. Yeah, where Campbell didn't quite own us yet, and they weren't that great. Okay, we've beaten him twice. But now we've lost 4 in a row. They kind of woke up. The Detroit Lions, they beat the crap out of us late that year. 34 points. That was that Donna Shell nonsense. And then last year they swept us. They just, Mullins had all those interceptions on Christmas Eve, and they made fun of that. And then they beat us again in the season finale en route to, an NFC title berth and all that, ultimately to blow a big lead. And then they beat us the Vikings were winning the whole game and blew it in the end, unfortunately, in October. Great game, but a loss, unfortunately, by the Vikings there. I kind of expect a lot of the same stuff, a very close game. This might be one of those where maybe the Vikings build an early lead, hopefully score some points, get some touchdowns early. You got to execute, and there's a real chance here. And I'm not going to go against the Vikings in this one. Previously I would have probably picked Detroit if they weren't so battered in their secondary, absolutely battered with injuries. I believe even linebackers are hurt too. So I think the Vikings find a way to get this done by a final score. Again, I think it's going to be more of an aerial attack that's going to get it done. The running game will have its moments. Hopefully you can get Akers and obviously Aaron Jones especially to get to like Aaron Jones to get some 80, like something like 80 yards if you can, or 60 is maybe more realistic. Maybe Akers has a key first down on a third down play, kind of like today. 3rd and 2, it was like so close that he was able to help make the play. Him and Darnold was able to connect to him, and it helped save the day so the Vikings could get into victory formation and get out of there. But it might be kind of a close thing like that, where that the secondary of the Lions might be the difference here, and Darnold's incredible clutch play that he has shown this season. Obviously, again, the Vikings secondary is key in this one as well, because Jared Goff has been unbelievable. Like, he is an MVP candidate. Goff is an MVP candidate. Barkley's an MVP candidate. Josh Allen. And even Darnold. I'd say that's kind of your 4 competing for the most valuable player. I think all 4 players get votes for the MVP this year, the NFL offensive MVP. I think all 4 of those guys get votes, or maybe at least 1 vote, but they will be on the list of MVP conversation. Only 1 guy gets it, obviously. So again, the secondaries, like, which secondary is going to be up for it more? I'd like to believe the Vikings can get a turnover or 2 on Jared Goff that could help get things going in the right direction. That maybe the Vikings just somehow are able to return the favor and pull off a very close victory over the Detroit Lions, 31-28. Sam Darnold throws 3 touchdowns at the end of the day, and we got a running touchdown by an Akers or Jones or some, or even Ty Chandler pulls off something. I remember I think he had a pretty good game against them. I think he was good against them last year, if I remember correctly. This is the season, the final game of the season. Mullins, he threw 2 interceptions, 400 yards. Yeah, Chandler ran for 69 yards, and almost 6 yards a carry. So maybe it'll be something like that, where Chandler has some kind of exciting little play, just unexpected, that type of thing. We'll look at the Christmas Eve game real quick. And I mean real quick. Yeah, Chandler ran for 17 yards. That's nothing. Absolutely nothing. And Mullins threw 4 interceptions, 411 yards, but 4 interceptions. So I don't think Darnold's going to do anything crazy like that. Just pray to God that neither team has any type of major injury in that game either. I hope both teams come out of that one healthy, because, well, as long as it's not against us, I'd be rooting for the Lions to go all the way as long as it's not against us. So that kind of thing. So it'd be nice to see one of us possibly represent the NFC in the Super Bowl this year. Vikings or Lions in the Super Bowl this year and beat the Chiefs or even the Bills. I'd rather see either of us beat the Bills or the Chiefs should they get to the Super Bowl. And yes, the Ravens too, because they've won a Super Bowl recently, so semi-recently. Chiefs, I think we're all sick and tired of, so we can move on from that nonsense at the end of the day. 31-28. I think the Vikings outlast the Lions in a game that's going to see lead changes. You're going to see maybe an interception by each quarterback. But I think just the overall clutch play, and again the injuries in that Detroit secondary are going to be too much. I'm sure Gibbs will get well over 100 yards. He'll probably score once, if not twice, in the game. Goff will be a problem, but I think the Vikings get a key turnover on Goff late that help us win the game at the end of the day. The Vikings win the game and have the number 1 seed for the first time since 1998. What do you think of that? Wouldn't that be fun to talk about here on Purple Mafia? Well, that would. With that, we'll take a quick break and come back for fan interaction. And we are back here on Purple Mafia, segment number 3, fan interaction segment. We're going to try to jump straight into the Twitter. I also do have the Instagram, Purple Mafia Show. Purple Mafia Show on the Instagram. I try to check that early as well. Maybe real quick. Sorry, I'm always kind of changing my mind here on the fly. I'm doing a Carl Poole ad. Oh, I never watched that yet. Oh, well, I'll watch it soon. Were there anybody in the post game last week? No, bummer. So nothing on Instagram. Oh, doggone it. I wish there was. Would have been nice. Actually would have enjoyed that, but oh well. Instagram, you're more than welcome to go there. Purple Mafia Show. It's all one word. So please do look at that. Interesting. Terrible president is trending. Well, I wonder if they're talking about a certain man. So, yes, Jimmy Carter has passed away as of today, 100 years old. Jimmy Carter was the president when I was born. So, yeah, 1979. It was in his, one of his last years there. It was basically his last full year, I suppose. No, last year is not having to campaign for re-election yet, if that makes any sense. But yes, so yeah, so the president that was still president when I was born has passed away at age 100. Of course, H.W. died a few years ago. He was in his mid-90s. H.W. Bush in 2018, I believe. Can't believe it's already been that long. Wow. It's crazy to think it's been that long already. Believe it's been that long. Yeah, and then you have, so you still have Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump. Yeah. Man, that's not that many, is there? Oh, yeah, because Reagan obviously passed away in 94. Yeah. So, 94, 2004. Passed away in 2004. Anyhow, but yeah, Jimmy Carter has passed away at age 100 plus. Anyhow, so to the Purple Mafia show. Janae Brown out of New Zealand opening things up here, saying, okay, so he was responding to something I was talking about, Kyler Murray. Yeah, like, talent as Kyler Murray is, they're never going to win, da-da-da. Janae Brown says, a lot of these good, not great quarterbacks need to realize if they want to win, they need to sacrifice the money they're making to make the team better. Hard to turn down millions of dollars, though, ha-ha. I was saying it's definitely on management and the owners to say no when it comes to these ridiculous demands. Some guys just don't deserve it. Bottom line, I remember saying that about Matt Ryan when he signed a massive contract years ago. I took huge criticism for it. Who was right? I know I'm being a goofball, but anyhow, yeah, Matt Ryan, you know. I mean, well, Mad Martin, yep, we will definitely hear from Tanae later. At least I'm pretty sure we will. Mad Martin from Northern Scotland leading the way here, saying, no, that's how you start a game, make them pay. That was, of course, the fumble by Josh Jacobs. That was fun, and of course, we didn't make them pay. Yeah, we were kind of frustrated about that, the two of us there. Offensively, we didn't take advantage of two great defensive efforts. Yeah, like, you know, pinning the Packers on one, and of course, getting the turnover after the Packers' offense looked promising and to open up the game. That was kind of scary. Jacobs kept getting through, but then he would end up fumbling. So that made us feel a little bit better for a minute, but then we did do nothing with it, unfortunately. The missed 58-yarder. Mad Martin continuing saying, hopefully it's just a slow start from our offense with the teams giving them great opportunities to put points on the board. Yeah, so we continue there. What was I saying? And I was like, and of course we didn't. And I was like, that kind of stuff makes me sick, like how we blow opportunities. And he's saying, I cannot argue with that. It's bloody frustrating. Yep. I was saying, and now the 15-yard penalty is typical. I was saying, I have a crappy feeling. The history of this franchise drives me nuts. Yeah, it felt so creepy early on, like the first half. It felt like this was going to go really south. Again, like 2000. That was just like the way Almon Green and all them came into U.S. Bank Stadium and the Metrodome, and just killed us and derailed everything. It was so depressing. Wolves were trailing, now they're taking over. Okay, good. Yeah, 3 things going on. I could actually switch that up, yeah. Anyhow, Man Martin was saying, I know what you mean about the crappy feeling, but there has to be a year where it all comes together. Finally, might not be this year, but I feel confident that this team is on the right track. Yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be cool if it was? Wouldn't that be cool if it was? Yep, Dave Hickey adding something here late. That's good. Thank you, Dave. We'll get back to that in a moment. Yes, and I do believe Tanae won the whole thing recently. I think he did. He's in the final, and man, I miss being there. Boy, do I ever. Like baseball, I got back-to-backs, so that was nice. Back-to-back titles. But this is football, damn it. Man, yeah, I've been back and forth. Yeah, we talked a lot. Mad Martin was saying that's more like it. Beautiful pass down the field. Yep, that was like that great play to Jalen Naylor, of all people. Wasn't that cool? Yeah, but I was saying, yeah, we were saying, so yeah, the refs certainly aren't on our side. And he's like, so far they seem to not be. Eventually, we got a couple calls our way, especially that, during that kick right before the half. That was kind of fun. Oh, yeah, like the red zone. Yeah, Mad Martin was saying, we've not been great in the red zone this year, which is quite frustrating. You can add terrible clock management on this final drive. Yeah, he was saying that was a very scary long second, period or quarter. I think he'll be there for a while. Yeah, I was bitching about Matt LaFleur and I deleted some stuff. I was getting a little bit too much, too Rube-like, and I apologize. Sometimes it happens in these crazy games. I was saying, Matt LaFleur, you're a bush league. Tired of this clown. Because he called timeout twice on the kick. Like, do you have to do that crap? Just stop. He was, and of course, the getting on the field and flipping out just like he did in the Green Bay game earlier in the year. It was like, dude, calm down, man. I understand, though. I understand you're competitive. Matt Murray was saying, I think he'll be there for quite a while yet. And yeah, I'm sure he will. I was saying, my bad. Sorry for overreacting. Yep. Because I was overreacting, no doubt. There he is. Tanay has returned. And today, I was just making that frown after that easy drive by the Packers. Just flying down the field. It's just like, really? Tanay Brown said, Green Bay has all the momentum now. Need to score this next drive. Ned Martin said, oh, that was the interception. Yeah, and then Green Bay scored like right away. You know how that works. That stupid interception. Ned Martin said, mistakes happen. Packers are a good team. Time to put it behind us. Get 7 more on the board and start warming up the bus back to Wisconsin. Yep, and he's laughing. Tanay says, I'm quietly hoping for field goals as I have Reichart as my kicker for my fantasy Super Bowl. Let us know, Tanay, if you won. Let us, do you... Yep, let us know ASAP. Hopefully it should be morning there now. So it's not like I'm like, oh, it's the middle of the night. No, for Mad Martin, it is in the middle of the night. For today, it should be morning. I mean, we're talking Australia here, New Zealand, excuse me. Mad Martin was saying, I don't really care as long as we batter them. Yep. Whereas, as long as we get field goals or whatever. But luckily, we did get some touchdowns. Stupid Reichart. He only made 2 kicks for you. And I think the long ones are worth more, too, right? So it sucks that he missed some of those. He did make it 50, though. Ned Martin says, would you expect anything different? What was that? Because I was bitching about how close it got, probably. I was like, you can't make this up. Yeah, the way they were just... It was the interception and then eventually the quick score. Ned Martin says, would you expect anything different? But Darnold has passed Brett Favre for the most passing touchdowns, 34 and counting, in a player's first season with the Vikings. Yeah, with the team. Let's add another 2 or 3 to that tonight. Wouldn't that be something? Yep, I do believe, yes. So he's like the best free agent ever, basically, in terms of quarterbacks for Minnesota. Otherwise, obviously, rookie quarterbacks don't throw 34 touchdowns usually, like Culpepper didn't, and he was in his second year officially. Yeah, because rookies usually don't play a whole lot. Oh, I didn't even click like on these. Shame on me. Sorry about this, guys. There, now we're clicking it. Today, mistakes happen. That was Mad Martin. Are they open? Okay, amen, brother. I was saying that's what a good team does. After a mistake that leads to a score, you just simply score right back. And it was my guy, Cam Akers. Mad Martin says, amen, brother. Yep. Wasn't that cool? Wasn't that cool? See, that's like last year's team. Oh, last year's team. The 2022, the 2022 team would probably not do that. We might have gotten blown out after that, honestly, or it would have just been a disappointing kind of a meh day. Maybe the Packers would have scored 38 against that Donna Shell defense. Tanay says, crazy how Darnold has 16 more touchdowns this season than his former season's best. Can you imagine? I wonder how many quarterbacks could succeed in this offense. Isn't that something? Yeah, because I was saying, yep, that was after that, wow, that's what we do. We come right back and score. I was saying, it is really fascinating when you consider what a massive difference it really is, not is really is, sorry. It's no wonder that Daniel Jones is here with basically no role at all at the moment. He figured, why go to some purgatory in Vegas just to get snaps but not improve? Yep. So, Dave Hickey out of Iowa says, I like the way they are playing other people. I like the way they are playing. Other people making contributions, heading into the playoffs, like Cam Akers and such. Yep. And Jalen Naylor. Someone is always open, and we are winning a lot of different ways. Great thoughts there, Dave. That was awesome. Mad Martin continues saying, I really think they're going to get the number one seed. They are playing better and better each game. If our D plays like this next week, they will demolish Detroit's offense. I hope so. I mean, Detroit's offense is one of the best. So if the Vikings can do that, I'd be so happy. Man. But then you got to do that in the playoffs too. You got I want to see bloody, bloody bugga, whatever slang word we have here. Patrick Mahomes stopped. I want to see him stopped by the Vikings in the Super Bowl. I want to see it happen. I want to see the Vikings dethrone the Chiefs. The Vikings end their drought against the team that started it. Even though it's a completely different generation and everything, it's like grandchildren, basically. It's literally like their grandchildren, or even great-grandchildren in some cases. Might even be great-grandchildren. Some of those guys would be so old now, they're like 80 years old. Yep, there might be the great-grandkids out there. But at least grandchildren range beat and avenge what started all this nonsense and the heartbreak in this town and remove it all once and for all in most unlikely fashion. A free agent quarterback who was a high draft pick but struggled so bad and looked like garbage. He threw 3 interceptions against us. Going up against, a guy some people call the GOAT. In fact, a lot of people do. He's not the GOAT. He hasn't earned it. He's one of the best of all time. That would be Patrick Mahomes, but he's not the GOAT. He's simply not. He's not there. Montana and Brady, at the very least, are ahead of him still. After that, well, it is kind of tough. But I do think Montana and Brady are ahead of Patrick Mahomes still at this moment. Frankly, I hope it stays that way, but we'll see. We'll see. Next, Mad Martin was saying, now we can't stop the pass. The refs have not helped with some bloody awful calls. Yeah, like the one, that stupid offside. It was unbelievable. But also, again, that pass interference DPI on Murphy Jr. Yep, freaking frustrating. Stephon Gilmore was pretty good. Yeah, we didn't have any stupid call on him this week. That was last week in Seattle, and he had kind of a bad game too anyway. That was a frustrating game. Mad Martin says, this is where Sam will earn his future contract. Yep, getting that team down the field. Yep, that one drive that ended up ending the game because of the, getting that first down and move the chains enough. Packers had no timeouts, or they only had one. They stopped what they could, and then eventually, but it didn't matter. There wasn't enough time left. Dave Hickey said, down to another close game that didn't need to be. Thanks, Big Leg Bill. Yeah, that was so frustrating. Mad Martin says, woo, 14-2 victory. The final catch was season-defining. Yep, the one with Akers. As the Monkees once sang, I'm a believer. Yep, that'd be that great, one of those great bands back in the day. Dave Hickey says, what a game. These are like post-game thoughts basically now. Yeah, obviously the Mad Martin's last couple there. Dave Hickey, what a game. I feel like we dominated the game, but barely win again. But whatever it takes. I love the way Sam is finishing games, though. Kirk Cousins would have us maybe 7 to 8 wins. Love seeing him on the bench. Yeah, because imagine if we brought him back like kind of in this fashion where he's not the same guy. We would have been kicking ourselves like you've never seen. And the fans would have been pissed and heartbroken and calling for the heads, possibly of both the coach and the general manager. But instead, general manager looks like he might be the GM of the year, and the coach looks like he may be the coach of the year. Wouldn't that be something? I was ranting saying, this is BS, stop messing around. We had these guys blown out, but here we are again. Garbage. Today, I think it's just wrapping up the Twitter section. So both Tanae and Dave coming in real late, but that's great. They came in on time. You guys made it. Tanae says, I will be taking a loss unless Darnell Mooney goes for 3 touchdowns or something ridiculous. Oh, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Tanae. Thank you for the quick reply. That was awesome. Thank you, Tanae. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, Tanae. Yep, that sucks, man. Yep, I had, in my early years, it was awesome. It was kind of like, like when Brady won his 3 Super Bowls real early. It was kind of like that. And then remember how it's like he just couldn't for a while? Like they couldn't get it, they couldn't get over the hump. They couldn't get past certain teams or whatever. He was hurt one of those years. Or they couldn't get past Denver one year. They couldn't get past, and they lost to the Giants twice. It was ridiculous. That's kind of what happened in my fantasy world, fantasy football. I won my first 3 Super Bowls. Not all together, they weren't all consecutive seasons, but I think it was 3 out of 4. My first 4 seasons, I think I won 3 titles. It was nuts. Like, absolutely beautiful, right? But it might have been a total of 5 or so years, because I think one of those years I had 2 teams. So something like that, like 5 or 6 seasons, I won 3 titles. And then I got to the bowl, or no, one of those years I lost in the conference. It was a team that was not good. Or no, I got to the conference and lost. It was just kind of, it was not a good team. It was a miracle we won the semifinal, whatever. Conference semifinal, whatever you call it, or quarterfinal overall. Lost that first round, whatever. Or got past it like a miracle and got killed in the semifinal. And then I think it was like a couple of really meh years, like didn't make the playoffs, and then came back like with a flurry and like 7. Yeah, it was 05, 06 were disappointing. Yeah, it was just 06 I only missed the playoffs 1 year, and then 07, an unbelievable year, first place all season, and then the coach didn't give Adrian Peterson the ball and a couple other guys too, like Marshall Falk stuff. Lost the Super Bowl, ruined my Christmas Eve. 2006 was like that. Yeah, lost the Super Bowl in heartbreaking fashion. 2007 looked like an even better team and lost that one. And I did lose the Super Bowl trying to get the in 2003 also. Yeah, it was that one too. That's what happened. I did get to the bowl that year and lost. So disappointing. I was trying to go back to back 02 to 03. So that was one loss, and then I lost in 06, and I lost 07, and I got to the bowl in 08 and lost again. And I was like, okay, 3 straight losses in the bowl, but 4 overall. I was like, I quit. Basically, it was so frustrating, and I never really came back. So, until this year. But missed the playoffs this year. So, my first year back in like over a decade. Pretty wild. Why am I talking about my fantasy football team? I think you're bored about that. But, very long show here. I apologize. Facebook, and we could wrap things up. I'm sorry I got into that. Leland says, Skull. This is the Facebook page. Facebook, look it up. Facebook.com or Facebook or whatever. Purple Mafia show, Minnesota Vikings show. If you could look it up and join. Like, nobody's joining. So, I don't know. A lot of people might have thought that, I don't know, like they're still on the page or whatever. But no, it had to be recreated. Because something went wrong with that page, or maybe they thought I quit the show and they stopped listening a long time ago. I don't know what happened to you guys. It's a bummer. Like Cedric Paulding, just in case you're listening, I'd love to hear from you again, coming out of Mississippi. I miss that guy. Mike Dale out of the state of New York was saying Flores has them playing the Packers a bit too soft for my liking. Late in the fourth, but a bit nervy. Yeah, it really was. It was driving me nuts. I replied, what did I say? Yeah, I was like, every time we think we have somebody, it's the same freaking nonsense. It drives me nuts. Leland was saying solid first half. So far has been shutting down the main receivers, but other guys stepping up. He loves the depth. Jalen Naylor's having a solid game, according to Mike Dale. And then at the end, he says, whoo, man, oh man, that was some Franco Harris-esque immaculate reception BS by Cam Akers there. Grateful he was able to haul that in and ice the game. Yes, it was beautiful, wasn't it? And I love Cam Akers, so that felt good. He's kind of become the third down back, hasn't he? Like the Chester Taylor, in a sense. Not quite as successful so far as Chester Taylor was as that in 2009 and stuff when Adrian Peterson came on the scene. 7, 8, and 9, and Taylor was like the best third down back in football, basically, with the best first down back in football, the best overall back in football. Took me to multiple Super Bowls with Adrian Peterson in 07 and 08, but lost in both. Great teams, but we didn't win. So heartbreaking. That's why I stepped away. I mean, you have the best team all year, and then everything just kind of, like the coaches change everything at the last second. Because you have no control over what's happening other than putting people in a lineup. So it's devastating. It truly is. It's truly devastating, and that's what made me step away all those years ago. So anyhow, with all of that dirty laundry now aired out unnecessarily, I hope all of you had a wonderful Christmas. I really do. And again, putting into perspective where this team was last New Year's Eve. How awful they were. Lifeless. Green Bay just kind of rolled all over the mediocre, crappy, whoever they were, Nick Mullins, and what's his face? guy that's on another team now, Jaron Hall. Here we are now with Sam Darnold throwing, mid-30 touchdowns already, 12 interceptions. Vikings are 14-2. 14 and like nobody on this planet could say the Vikings are going to be 14-2 as we head into the new year. Nobody. But let's not waste this effort. Let's not waste this effort. 14 wins in 2024. Let's not be like 1998, come back, and then it's all just sad and heartbreaking. Remember that? But of course, we did win a game in 1999 in the playoffs. We did beat Arizona. We also beat I think we beat the Ravens for the 13th win. But that was like the New Year's week. I forget how all that went out. I know we beat Tennessee to get our 15th win. It was absolutely crazy. Will the Vikings get our 15th win versus this Detroit team? We'll see. But I'm picking the Vikings do finish 15-2. Number one seed and quite possibly the future champions here in this league. It'd be amazing. Truly amazing. Hopefully that ends up being the case as we go forward. Man, it really would. So here we are. Here we are heading into the new year, and I wish all of you a very happy new year. I really do. Hopefully those of you that are looking to upgrade your job, upgrade your role at your job, like maybe you stay in the same place, but you're looking for the upgrade, like myself included. Hopefully we all reach that goal. Like this is the year. This is the year we move up. Hopefully this is the year Purple Mafia that's coming up. Purple Mafia can take a step forward. It'd be nice. But those of you that have been here all this time, I appreciate every one of you forever. I really do. You're lifelong friends for me now. Like I don't ever want to not know you. You know what I mean? I don't ever want it to be like, oh, I used to know him. Like a lot of people have come and gone over the years. But those of you that have stuck around, and those of you that have stuck around, I cherish you so much. I mean, so many people have disappeared over the years. I could name a few names that were around forever that disappeared the last few years, and it's heartbreaking, to be quite honest. You don't hear their names anymore. I used to hear them every week. I don't want to say their names because I don't want to feel like I'm cutting them down, because I'm not trying to. Maybe they do still listen. They just don't interact anymore. But, I don't know, it sucks if they've walked away from the show. Some of them have. Some of them admitted that they did. Either because they're not interested in maybe Vikings football or they got too much else going on. But I don't know. I mean, I always find time for podcasts. I guess everybody's different, though. Everybody's different. Maybe podcasts aren't as important to some people as others. So, and like I always say, like people always tell you, like if you're the host and creator of a show, like say me here with Purple Mafia, or you doing, imagine, like your own show, whatever, nobody cares about it more than you do. As much as people do care, the main person that created it does care the most. So that's just a reality we all have to face. Like nobody feels exactly as close to that show and as strongly about it as you do. So it's just a reality. That's it's up to you then if you want to keep doing it when people disappear. And, that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. But those of you that have stuck with this show as long as you have, I can't thank you enough, especially when we're talking 10 years or more. It is insane. It's insane. Like I bless you with all my heart. I truly do. Truly. So like those of you that have retweeted, you've shared the show, you tell your friends about it. God bless you so much. Mark Carlson, Gerald String, Tanae Brown, Vince Germano, Malcolm, I hope you're still out there. I really miss you. I think he does still listen. He just doesn't interact for some reason. Sam Gupta, same thing, kind of a quieter guy, I think. Yeah, I mean, I could go on all day. Wish I could hear from Brent Jacobson. Wish I could hear from Tony Coleman. I wish I could. Wish I could if you're still out there. I wish I could. Mark Carlson. Obviously, Matt Martin. I mean, my goodness, Mike Dale. Matt Martin's been around for at least a decade already. It's like probably 12 years, I think. 2013-ish, around there. I mean, Matt Martin, I just love you to death. Mike Dale, obviously, you've been unbelievable. Dave Hickey, you've been unbelievable. So I just want to tell you how important you are to this show and how much it means to me that you're out there. It means a lot, that you've kept up all this time and keep these coming. Leland, of course, Leland. Yeah, I mean, Leland's been around for a very long time, and you've been so loyal to this show as well. Like Leland, I appreciate the hell out of you. I really do. You're a Purple Mafia Hall of Famer. The truth is, you notice I'm not talking about Purple Mafia Hall of Fame anymore because all of you that have stuck around are in it. Like the other people, when the Facebook page went down, disappeared. They didn't come back. A lot of them didn't come back. Maybe they're still listening, but they just, I don't know, they don't want to look for the page or whatever. I don't know what the heck happened. So, and then there's like no new people popping up. I mean, all of you are in the Hall of Fame. Mark Carlson, Leland, Tanay. Yep. And you guys absolutely deserve to be there. Whether there's 15 people interacting or 15,000, you guys deserve to be there over all the others, You guys deserve to be there. Absolutely. So with that said, it'd be cool. Anybody wants to interact with the show with the obviously the Instagram. There's links in the show description or like how to find it. Purple Mafia Show for Instagram. Purple Mafia Show for X. Of course, there's this right here. Facebook. Purple Mafia Show. Minnesota Vikings Show. Hopefully you can find it. And if you have trouble finding it, let me know. Otherwise, there should be a link in the show description, which should help. I will not be getting a blue sky, but that's for my own personal reasons. And some of you can kind of read between the lines as to why. I have no plans of getting a blue sky. It's not for me. Sorry. It's just not. I'm going to stay right where I'm at, and I'm happy to have 3 different outlets to work with. That's pretty good, honestly. And then, I guess 4 because TikTok has all of them. Paladino.live. Oh, I forgot to update that. Because Christmas went by. That's where I could update it to just straight Paladino Live. Maybe I could do it on air right here. It's going to be a super long show the way I'm going here. But yeah, it's Paladino Live or Paladino.live. And those of you that are already following, thank you. Maybe some of you just think TikTok is crap. I pretty much do too. I don't like to see people dancing in front of cameras. I think it's obnoxious and self-serving BS. All that self-love stuff. I don't agree with that at all. It's your opinion, but just when I see self-love, I almost want to faint when I look at that stuff. It's like, that's the best you can do? So I don't know how to find it. How did I even do this before? Shoot. I'll have to fix it in a little bit. So if I do, good for me. How did I... Okay. No, not switch. I don't want to switch. Damn it. I forgot how to change that now. Settings, probably. It'd be cool if I could do it right here on air and it was quick. But, yeah, I'm kind of like my mind is kind of mixed up here. I don't know. I'm probably just boring you with this. Dang it. I can't find it. I can't find it. I swear I saw settings on here and now I can't see it. You dummy. Okay, well, if it's updated, it's updated. In the not too distant future. It's not. I don't know. I'll figure it out off air. I don't want to bore you with that. But, yeah, if you want to get on here with your voice, that'd be great. Simply use your smart device, record on any free voice recording app that they have. Treat it like it's a phone call or whatever. Email it or share it to paladinolive@yahoo.com. Paladinolive@yahoo.com. I will then convert it into an MP3 file thanks to cloudconvert.com. That really helps. That way I can get it into Audacity and, have it in the show editing software so it's all together with everything and I can publish the show. So other than that, though, I've probably babbled too much. Hopefully the Vikings are on course to something absolutely unbelievable this year. That one thing we've never accomplished. We all know what it is. This team's been to the Super Bowl, but it needs to take one more step. One more step. But we're several weeks away from talking about that, aren't we? With that said, take care. God bless you. Happy New Year. We'll talk to you in 2025.